Hey, Jeff Jantz here at Jantzer Studios, and I'm continuing my series where I'm making props, puppets, and even sets for the play Firebringer. So, in this episode, we've been kind of experimenting with shadow puppets. This is something I've never really done too much of before, other than just kind of goofing around like with a flashlight when I'm camping. So, this was pretty fun to experiment with, and I think we learned some pretty interesting little tricks. So I thought I would make a quick video just to kind of share a little bit of what we learned and share just kind of how we pulled this off. So in the original play, they had some shadow puppet sequence in the song The Night Belongs to Snarl. So we're going to do something similar, but I didn't want to make it too much like theirs. Also, we just don't have the option. It looks like in their set they had flats that were made with canvas, so they were projecting shadow puppets behind there. Well, our set already has walls that are made of drywall, so we don't really have that option. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of cheat a little bit. We're recording the shadow puppet sequence here in the studio, and there's a projector in the theater that we're using, and we're just going to project it into the back, and we're kind of trying to incorporate that into the choreography that we have going on. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting. But I thought anybody out there who's doing something with shadow puppets or just wants to experiment with it, I thought maybe we could kind of show some of the things that I've learned just kind of doing a little research and mostly just experimenting. So let's just jump right into it. Let me show you what we got going on here. Okay, so here's what we got. I basically just made a small frame using a couple of light stands and some scrap steel that I had laying around. I just kind of screwed it to the top here. I ended up using this fabric, which is a little bit stretchy. It's really nice for getting the wrinkles out. But I think that if all you had was a white sheet or even a large piece of paper, I'm pretty sure you could make that work too. The next thing I had to figure out was really just where to put the light. When I first set it up, I set it up kind of low, and that didn't really work. You can see it through the fabric, and also my shadow just kept getting in the way. So I swapped out a taller light stand, raised it up, and that seemed to solve a lot of problems. As I mentioned, we'll be recording this and just playing it during the production, so it won't be a live performance, but I found that the camera was a very helpful tool while we were performing the puppets. Let me show you what I mean. So this is the monitor that I use when I'm doing other types of puppetry for video, and this is hardwired into my camera, and basically what you see on the screen is what it looks like from the camera, plain and simple. But this really made it a lot easier, so we weren't kind of trying to figure out what it looked like from the front while we were looking at it from the back. The ideal setup for using a monitor with your camera, especially for puppetry, is to have it hardwired in there. If you're using anything that's wireless, like a tablet, you might get like a 1 to 5 second delay, and that doesn't really help you much when you're trying to perform. I realize not everyone has a camera with an HDMI output, so another option could be to use a wireless baby monitor, especially if you already have one. But if you're going to buy one, I would recommend getting one that says that it doesn't need Wi-Fi. We actually bought one of these cameras, but we bought it so that we can use it to see where we're going when we're inside of our giant woolly mammoth costume. Well, when are you going to make a video about me? Huh? Oh, it's coming. Make sure you subscribe so you'll be the first to know when it comes out. I'm guessing that right now, what you really want to see is the shadow puppets. So let's take a little bit closer look behind the scenes so we can see how these things work. I think one of the coolest things about shadow puppets is that you don't really need special skills, tools, or materials to make them. I just drew this stuff on some cheap poster board and I cut it out. If you really want to keep it simple, you can just tape it to a piece of wire or maybe a coat hanger, a straw, skewer stick, whatever you got. But of course, I don't like to keep things simple. So I created this little slot for my stick to slide into, and then there's magnets on there. This way we can kind of like rip it off really quickly. To create Snarl's claws, I just taped scrap poster board to my fingers. That's a whole nother really easy way you can make shadow puppets. My most favorite puppet out of all the puppets we made for this is definitely Snob. So we ended up making it really, really big because we wanted to be able to fill most of the frame with the puppet itself. So I added this whole extra section of poster board back here. And then to make his eye, we wanted to give it a little bit of red here. So I just used some packaging tape and put it on there and colored it in with a Sharpie. Pretty simple. But you're probably really wondering how we made his jaw open and close. So that's actually fairly simple too. I had one of these grabber tools and we just taped everything right to it. You can see on here, you pull the trigger and his mouth goes up and down. So there really wasn't that much to it. That's really the most fun part about making shadow puppets, is that it can be really simple, but you get some really cool effects. And speaking of effects, I got one last little bonus tip for you. We noticed that when you bring the puppet in closer to the screen, well, it kind of gets more sharp and more in focus. But when you pull it away from the screen and closer to the light, not only does it get bigger, but it kind of comes out of focus. That can be kind of a really cool effect. By the way, that guy right there, that's Ryan. He's the owner and operator of RPG Entertainment, and he's the one who's directing and producing this version of Firebringer, which will be at Planet Ant Theater in Hamtramck, Michigan in August 2023. Make sure you check it out. I hope you found this video helpful, or at the very least interesting. And if you're thinking about doing something with shadow puppets, post in the comments below. Let us know what you're up to. And also, if you post something on Facebook or Instagram, tag me at Jancer Studios so I can see what you've been up to. All right, I'll catch you in the next video.